Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel Amy Reads Books. Today I'm going to be doing a ranking of Grady Hendrix's horror novels from least favorite to most favorite. I have read all 7 of his books that he's published since 2017. This is excluding any of his short stories, so stay tuned to see which is my least favorite all the way up to what is my favorite. Starting with the least favorites, it is Horrorstor. Something strange is happening at the Orsk furniture store in Cleveland, Ohio. Every morning, employees arrive to find broken, carriaging bookshelves, shattered Glands water goblets, and smashed Larry Pip wardrobes. Sales are down, security cameras reveal nothing, and store managers are panicking. To unravel the mystery, 3 employees volunteer to work a 9-hour dusk till dawn shift. In the dead of the night, they'll patrol the empty showroom floor, investigate strange sights and sounds, and encounter horrors that defy the imagination. I'd rank this a 3 out of 5 stars. I like the setting of the book where it was set in a pseudo IKEA store. And if you've ever been in an IKEA, you know that it can be very easy to get lost. The space is vast, and so it did create the setting for a good creepy novel. But the thing that I didn't quite like about this is that it kind of felt dismal, and there was very little resolution with the characters throughout the book. This one didn't really capture my attention like I hoped it would, and it could be due to the fact that I read this book immediately after I read my most favorite by him. On my list is The Final Girls Support Group. In horror movies, the final girls are the ones left standing when the credits roll. They made it through the worst night of their lives, but what happens afterwards? Lynette Tarkington is a real-life final girl who survived a massacre. For more than a decade, she's been meeting with 5 other final girls and their therapist in a support group for those who have survived the unthinkable, working to put their lives back together. Then, one woman misses a meeting and their worst fears are realized. Someone knows about the group and is determined to rip apart their lives again, piece by piece. But the thing about Final Girls is that no matter how bad the odds, how dark the night, how sharp the knife, they will never ever give up. I would rank this one a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I liked the synopsis, and I liked how Hendrix used the concept of the final girl that you see and hear about in horror movies as the main storyline. It was a clever idea to make a story out of this, and I will say this book was a little more high intensity just because the main character was in such a constant state of fight or flight. This one kept my attention in a little bit more of a stressful way, not necessarily in a suspenseful or exhilarating type of way that I prefer to feel when I'm reading a book. Next on my list is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. They call themselves wayward girls, loose girls, girls who grew up too fast, and they're sent to the Wellwood home in St. Augustine, Florida, where unwed mothers are hidden by their families to have their babies in secret, give them up for adoption, and most important of all, to forget any of it ever happened. 15-year-old Fern arrives at the home in the sweltering summertime of 1970, pregnant, terrified, and alone. Under the watchful eye of the stern Miss Wellwood, she meets a dozen other girls in the same predicament. There's Rose, a hippie who insists she's going to find a way to keep her baby and escape to a commune, and Zinnia, a budding musician who knows she's going to go home and marry her baby's father. And Holly, a wisp of a girl, barely 14, mute, and pregnant by no one knows who. Everything the girls eat, every moment of their waking day, and everything they're allowed to talk about is strictly controlled by the adults who claim they know what's best for them. Then Fern meets a librarian who gives her an occult book about witchcraft, and power is in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives. But power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. There's always a price to be paid, and it's usually paid for in blood. I would rank this book a 3.75 out of 5 stars. This book is Hendrix's most recent, and I did really enjoy the storyline. I liked how it was set around the maternity homes that were a very real thing in the 50s and 70s. So while it did shed some light into the reality of what these historical homes were like, I also liked the spin on it, having that little bit of witchcraft mixed in. I found the characters likable, and this is definitely one of his lighter novels that he's written. Next on my list at number 4 is We Sold Our Souls. In the 1990s, heavy metal band Dirtwork was poised for breakout success. Then, lead singer Terry Hunt embarked on a solo career and rocketed into stardom as Coffin, leaving his fellow bandmates to rot in rural Pennsylvania. 2 decades later, former guitarist Chris Pulaski works as the night manager of a Best Western. She's broke, tired, and unhappy. Everything changes when she discovers a shocking secret from her heavy metal past. Turns out that Terry's rise to success may have come at the price of selling Chris's very own soul. This revelation prompts Chris to hit the road, reunite with the rest of her bandmates, and confront the man who ruined their lives. It's a journey that will take her from the Pennsylvania Rust Belt to a satanic rehab center, finally to a Las Vegas music festival. A furious power ballad about never giving up, even in the face of overwhelming odds, We Sold Our Souls is an epic journey into the heart of a conspiracy-crazed, paranoid country that seems to have lost its very soul, where only a girl and a guitar can save them all. I would also rank this one a 3.75 out of 5 stars. This is the most recent novel that I've read by him. This was part of my 2026 TBR. Hendrix is a very immersive writer, and as I was reading through this, it really felt like Dirtwork and Coffin were real bands in the 1990s. It also felt like the concept or the entity of Black Iron Mountain and Troglodyte were very real things. This book was definitely more higher stress than Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, but I liked this one quite a bit. Moving into my top 3, I was torn between ranking this next book as a number 3 or number 2. However, I had to place it in the number 3 spot, and it is my best friend's Exorcism. Abby and Gretchen have been best friends since 5th grade, where they bonded over a shared love of E.T., roller skating parties, and scratch and sniff stickers. But when they arrive at high school, things change. Gretchen begins to act different. And as the strange coincidences and bizarre behavior begin to pile up, Abby realizes there's only one possible explanation. Gretchen, her favorite person in the whole world, has a demon living inside of her. Abby is not about to let anyone or anything come between her and her best friend. With the help from some unlikely allies, Abby embarks on a quest to save Gretchen. But is their friendship powerful enough to beat the devil? I'd rank this a 4 out of 5 stars. This is your classic demon possession novel, and I liked how Hendrix centered this around 2 teenage girls. This novel includes your classic grotesque and horror that you would get in a demon possession book. There's one scene in particular that still stands out to me, and it is the tapeworm scene. If you've read this book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was gagging and cringing as I was reading through it. So once again, Hendrix is so immersive, and he's so good at putting you right there with the characters. I read this book years ago, and that particular scene still sticks out to me. My second favorite is How to Sell a Haunted House. When Louise finds out her parents have died, she dreads going home. She doesn't want to leave her daughter with her ex and fly to Charleston. She doesn't want to deal with her family home, stuffed to the rafters with remnants of her father's academic success and her mother's lifelong obsession with puppets and dolls. She doesn't want to learn how to live without the 2 people who knew and loved her best in the world. Most of all, she doesn't want to deal with her brother Mark, who never left their hometown, gets fired from one job after another, and resents her success. Unfortunately, she'll need his help to get the house ready for sale because it'll take more than some new paint on the walls and clearing out a lifetime of memories to get this place on the market. But some houses don't want to be sold, and their home has other plans for both of them. I would rate this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I just love this book so much, and that's saying a lot about how I'm feeling about my number 1 choice. This book was super creepy, and it had just the right amount of things that were happening to kind of set you on edge and enough suspense that made you want to keep reading. I also could relate well to the character's mom, who was super into the Christian puppet scene. Not that my mom was into that, but the whole thing took me back to memories of my childhood, going to Vacation Bible School where there was a Christian puppet scene, and those types of things was a very real thing. This book also had some of that over-the-top horror that I was just shaking my head saying, this cannot be happening. Moving into my number 1 favorite by Grady Hendrix, it is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Patricia Campbell has always planned for a big life, but after giving up her career as a nurse to marry an ambitious doctor and become a mother, Patricia's life has never felt smaller. The days are long, her kids are ungrateful, her husband is distant, and the to-do list never ends. The one thing she has to look forward to is her book club, a group of Charleston mothers united only by their love of true crime and suspenseful fiction. In these meetings, they're more likely to discuss the FBI's recent siege of Waco as much as the ups and downs of marriage and motherhood. But when an artistic and sensitive stranger moves into the neighborhood, the book club's meetings turn into speculation about the newcomer. Patricia is initially attracted to him, but when some local children go missing, she starts to suspect the newcomer is involved. She begins her own investigation, assuming he's some sort of Jeffrey Dahmer or a Ted Bundy. But what she uncovers is far more terrifying. And soon, she and her book club are the only people standing between the monster they've invited into their homes and their unsuspecting community. So, as I said, this is my #1 book. I would rate this a 5 out of 5 stars. I am a sucker for vampire stories, and I loved how Hendrix stuck to the classic vampire lore in this book. It had the perfect blend of intrigue, creep, and suspense, where I really had a hard time putting this book down. One scene in particular that still sticks out to me was when Patricia was in James's attic. That was an extremely stressful and suspenseful scene that still sticks out to me to this day. Also, the ending of this book was a perfect way to end a vampire novel, so I liked how Hendrix stuck to the true vampire lore throughout this book. Well, guys, there you have it, my ranking of Grady Hendrix's books from my least favorite to my most favorite. If you have read any or all of his books and you have a different opinion on how you'd rank these, please let me know in the comments. Or if you've read his books and enjoy them as much as I do, give this video a like. Thank you so much for watching Amy Reads Books. I will see you in the next video. Bye.